the stuff down the bottom. All right. All right, what are you going to do? All right. Hello. I'm Micah Bowers from Bluefire Productions, and with me today is Patrick Keating, who's my good friend and business partner and our CTO. And I'm getting old. So when I first came up with the title of the talk, EPUB Beyond the Ebook, my initial idea was to talk about how EPUB will evolve to many other things than what we tend to think of when we think of a book. It could be a spreadsheet, or a brochure, or a business document, or a mortgage calculator, or even Prezzo slides. But as I thought about it more, and I thought about the future of ebooks, EPUB, and digital media in general, I was struck by how much it has already changed in just the last few years. Not only in this industry, but for me personally as well. And in fact, it's been quite an adventure. And so I decided to talk about that journey. And then Patrick's going to come up and show some fun stuff. So to start from the beginning, for me, when I first started my career as an idealistic youth, right out of the Evergreen State College in 1991, I wanted to change the world through digital media. And I believed that the combination of digital video and ubiquitous computing and interactive media would revolutionize education. And I believed that we desperately needed to do a better job of educating our citizens if we were to have a chance of solving the social, environmental, and economic challenges that our world faces. And I still believe that. And so I spent the following 15 years pursuing that ideal, first with CD-ROMs, then ITV, then Flash, and then HTML5 and the cloud. And then in 2006, I was introduced to ebooks and EPUB and to e-reader devices when my company started working with a gentleman named Bill McCoy, who was then at Adobe. And that experience changed the way I thought about digital media. I realized then that long-form text was a key piece of the puzzle that I'd been missing in my prior work. And then smartphones and tablets came along, and it became clear that people across the world would have ebook-enabled devices in their pockets, purses, and backpacks everywhere they went. And then app stores emerged, as did ebook stores, and the word ebook became a household term across the globe, and the age of people actually making money selling digital content was born. What also emerged was the dominance of a few mega stores. And so we decided to build a business that helped all kinds of booksellers, publishers, and libraries offer their own e-reading apps to their audiences. And at the same time, self-publishing exploded. But the tools for creating EPUB were still lacking, and I would say still are. And the limitations of what EPUB 2 could do became apparent, as did the problems with inconsistency of rendering across platforms. And so I became very excited about a work-in-progress, next-generation ebook file format, spec, as I believed, and I still do, that it would enable the types of content that I had been working towards my entire career. And then the specification was ratified 3 years ago this month. Unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you look at it, Adobe, whose ebook rendering engine we and several others relied on for making e-reading apps, decided not to support EPUB 3 at that time, and instead developed a proprietary format of their own called Folio. And so 2 years ago now, almost to the day, we decided to do something that seemed kind of crazy to us at the time. We decided to work side by side with other companies, some of them direct competitors, to create an open source project to develop software development kits for EPUB 3 reading systems on all major platforms across mobile and the desktop, which we called Readium. And I didn't know at the time how important and transformative that decision would be for me and our company, and I really believe for the publishing industry moving forward. It has been a lot of work and has taken longer than we hoped, and so there have been times that we have had doubts. But we'd often remind ourselves, in fact, Patrick would say it out loud often, that an open source software to support standardized and packaged HTML file format is just too good of an idea to fail. And the fact that 50 companies have since joined the effort, perhaps we're not alone in that idea. However, there are many experienced and insightful insiders in the publishing industry that have doubts about the near-term commercial success of the types of content that EPUB 3 enables. And this is understandable, as illustrated nonfiction and enhanced ebooks have not sold particularly great so far. But there are 4 factors that I see today that I think will change the game. There has been an absolutely enormous expansion of self-publishing and fan fiction. Many thousands of individuals are publishing works via Smashwords, Wattpad, Amazon's platform, and many others. And there is a huge number of web developers with digital designers, both independent and those working within digital agencies, both large and small, with the tools and the skills to create engaging digital media with HTML5. The tools for creating EPUB are maturing, and we're beginning to see a host of new tools targeting EPUB 3 specifically. For example, the latest version of InDesign that came out 2 weeks ago includes some important improvements in this area. It's not perfect yet, but it's come a long way. And Readium has recently reached a 1.0 status for the web-based reading system projects, and will reach a 1.0 status across all the major desktop and mobile application platforms before the end of this year. We have more work to do beyond that, of course, but I think this is a watershed moment. And this will enable many different companies to soon deploy a wide variety of e-reading apps that support the most important features of EPUB 3, all with a shared core engine that will provide consistent feature support and consistent rendering across platforms, apps, and vendors. And I believe that the combination of these 4 factors are setting the stage for an explosion of creativity in ebooks in 2015. It may not start with the large publishing houses. It may well be self-publishing authors working hand in hand with independent designers and web developers, or with boutique creative agencies creating everything from annual reports to marketing materials, or it could be corporations creating accessible training materials for their employees, or teachers creating content for their students and their peers. It should be fun to watch and to participate in. And the key enabler of this will be books and browsers. Because everyone has a browser on almost every device. And this will enable people who create this content to easily get it in front of a global audience, quickly and easily. Apps are still important, of course, particularly for enabling monetization of commercial content. But the browser is going to be the bridge that will take us across that chasm. And I have to admit, I did not fully see that before, but I do now. And in the past, perhaps one did not simply put an ebook in a browser, but we will. And I'll now turn it over to Patrick to show some cool stuff.
Thanks, Micah. So, oh, you couldn't see this. I'll look up here, hopefully. It's not cloned on here. There it is. Great. Oh, I see. It's doubled. Okay. So this slideshow was done in the Readium JS project, which, as Micah mentioned, just hit its 1.0 status. And we've been working on it for about 2 years now, and the 1.0 milestone is actually significant for us. We feel like it's supporting a lot of the features it needs to support. such as media overlays, reflow text, fixed layout, MathML, audio video, interactive widgets, et cetera, et cetera. And this project is open source, distributed under the BSD license. So this is something anyone here can use if they want to. And there are other projects going on around mobile devices, which use a C++ SDK in conjunction with the same rendering engine that powers Redium in browsers. And not only are you free to use this and download it from GitHub and kick the tires and use it in commercial products, but I would encourage you to get involved, because the people in this room are exactly the kind of people that we want to hear from and that we need to hear from to make this work. So if the ideal of having a common rendering platform is useful, that's open source across many disciplines, then take a look and let us know how it could be better and how it could help move books into the browser. So I want to show some books in Redium today. And the first one I want to show is something that our art director, Dennis Soltis, made. And we asked him to make a book we could show in the browser in Redium. And he asked us, well, what should I show? What should I do? And we gave him carte blanche and said, make whatever you want. Make something you think's cool. And so he did. He came up with an ebook that is about this fusion of surfers getting to the beach on motorcycles, because he experienced that when he was down in Los Angeles, and he thought it was cool. And he builds custom motorized vehicles, and he built this entire EPUB, and he made it very rich media, because Bluefire has cut its teeth in the multimedia world, and it's near and dear to our hearts. And he made this really cool EPUB. And, you know, he'd never really made an EPUB before. But he knows InDesign, and he's a great designer. And he was able to, in less than 2 days, output this thing that really represented a creative vision he had. And it's got audio and video and animations, and it's pretty neat. He did it all in InDesign and then exported it. And we imported it directly into Redium, no tweaking, and it worked. And so I was happy to see that, because for fixed layout, it's doing its job. But fixed layout isn't the only game in town, and there's other ebooks that we have that aren't fixed layout. And the one I'd like to show is this Yosemite guide written by James Kaiser, who's in the audience today. And this is a really cool reflowable thing done in InDesign. And now I guess the InDesign reflow features need a little work, and hopefully we can get Adobe and other authoring tool providers to really look at EPUB 3 as their output format, hopefully their primary output format, and to be checking their output in Redium. And if it's broken, go to GitHub and enter an issue for us. This is a really cool book. It's a really comprehensive guide to Yosemite, including the infamous Camp 4, which I stayed in once. It was amazing. And it's a really nicely done book, and I'd encourage you to check it out. We also received a number of other really great EPUBs, and the thing that struck me was that we were bringing these into this reading system, and they were just working. And sure, we have work to do, and it'll never end. But at this point, it's working pretty well. So I'd like to show another book. We got some really cool professional books from Wiley that show reflowable layout with a lot of attention placed to layout within that reflow, and charts and graphs and the sorts of things you'd want in a professional book. Another cool book we got was 20 Ways to Track a Tiger that Ebook architects worked on. And it's beautiful. It's gorgeous. It's got these rich pictures and this great layout, and it's got these interactive features, and it's really, really, I think, oops. Of course, it wouldn't be a demo if it didn't crash, so thank goodness for that. Let's see, this will be cute. There we go. Another book we got was this travel guide to Marseille from Magis Books, Magis Digital rather, and it has this really cool take on the navigation with these post-it notes, and it shows that you can embed JavaScript widgets pretty easily in here, like this JavaScript-based 3D panorama that works in WebGL. It's pretty cool. And so, let's see. Yeah, I think that gives the idea of what's going on with fixed layout and reflow inside of Iridium. So back to Dennis's book for a minute, if I can find my cursor. So he placed these interactive things in here. And in InDesign, that's one thing you can do to get interactivity. Another thing you can do that I thought was pretty cool, and this will be challenging to do looking over my shoulder. And you can't see it very well, but this is Edge Animate, which is a neat keyframe-based animation tool. And it reminds me a lot of Flash 3.0 when that came out, which was a game changer, I thought, in interactivity. And it's keyframe-based, and it outputs straight HTML and JavaScript. So you can use it in a browser, you can use it in an ebook. And you can't see very well here, but the keyframes here, we thought we'd try to do something cool like Dennis did, and probably failed. But you can't see him very well, but there's Dennis with a custom-built motorcycle he made. And on his shirt is this graphic that we zoom out to take the full screen of the EPUB that he did. And so the idea was to come in here and enter a text transition. Something like that. And keyframe that sucker so that it does the amazing fly in from the left transition. But let's see, 4 minutes left? Okay. So what I thought was cool about this was you could output the Edge Animate format in this packaged up web format. Then you could bring it over into InDesign. And let's see, on the last page of Dennis's book, you could go ahead and use the place feature to place that packaged up web content into the InDesign file and then export that as an EPUB. And it automatically opens up in iBooks, and this file works really nicely in iBooks. But we can also import it into Iridium. Let's see. Hopefully this is the right one. And with any luck, on our last page. Oh, that's wrong, ebook. Let's try this guy. So here's Dennis, and we have a little button, and we animate our thing on and animate the text on. But the point is that there's a lot of these tools that are coming out that are HTML5 based, and a lot of them are packaging up their content into something you can include in an EPUB. And the authoring tools are reaching a point where they're easy enough to use by designers that they can express their creative freedom without too much tweaking. And the rendering tools are coming along to the point where they can be used to look at that content and see if it'll be widely distributed. So it's sort of a chicken and egg problem, except that once we reach a certain threshold, where the authoring tools and the rendering tools meet up, then it's no longer a problem, and it's a workflow. So anyway, thank you very much.